Hi, my name is Alexis Bill, and I will be doing my research on the Harvard IAT test. And today I have my mother, Kimberly Nelson, who's going to be taking the test and also going over pre and post questions. Kimberly Nelson, do you consent to taking this test, and are you above the age of 18?
I consent and I am above the age of 18.
All right. So now I'm going to go over what the Harvard IAT test is and what implicit and explicit bias is. The Harvard IAT test is a series of online tests designed to measure the unconscious association you make to characterize race, genders, sexual identity, and more. How does the IAT test work? When you take the Harvard IAT test, you are asked to quickly sort words and images into the left and right side of your computer screen. Depending on the test you take, the images are of people who represent different races, ages, genders, and etc. The words are either positive, like happy or attractive, or negative, angry or failure. What is implicit bias? Implicit bias results from unconscious cognitive processes that may be automatically activated. What is implicit bias? Implicit bias reflect attitudes or beliefs expressed at a conscious level of awareness. Now that I've gone over what the Harvard IAT test is and what implicit and explicit bias is, I'm going to go over the pre-test questions with my mom. Kimberly, what do you believe the Harvard IAT test will reveal about your unconscious biases?
I believe that the IAT test will reveal just my opinion of biases that are happening in the world today.
Next question. Do you believe your implicit attitudes differ from your explicit belief?
I don't think that my attitude differs. Sometimes my reaction can differ because growing up in the 70s, I had a very diverse group of people that I grew up around. So I just didn't have a biased view of other people.
Okay. Final question. How do you think your life experiences have shaped your views on race, gender, or other social categories?
Well, I think that my upbringing in the early 70s was very diverse, so it did shape my views on society and biases.
Now that I've gone over the pre-questions, I'm going to tell you about my hypothesis on my mom's results. I think that my mother's results will lean more biased towards her cultural background than the opposing. And I say this because of the fact that even though my mom lived in Jersey and she's from up north, and up north people had a different experience than the Southerns, she still has the background of being a Black woman in America, which doesn't change the fact that systemically, Black people were treated differently. Now that Kimberly has finished her Harvard IAT test on Black and white, we're going to go over the post-test questions. All right, Kimberly. Were you surprised by the results? Why or why not?
I wasn't surprised by the results. I was just surprised on the timing that they said it took and how I answered the questions.
Second question. How might your environment, upbringing, or media exposure have influenced your results?
My upbringing influenced my results because I grew up in a very diverse environment. So I had a lot of different cultures that I dealt with, so that did help me answer my questions.
Final question. How might implicit bias affect your behavior in professional or personal settings?
Well, in a professional or just out in the world, it would affect my decision just on my encounters with other people, with white people. It would affect depending on who I'm dealing with and how they approach me.
Okay. All right, now that we've gone over the post-test questions, I'm going to go over the results with her. Based off your results, it said that you were moderately fast at sorting European Americans with bad and African Americans with good. Then African Americans with bad and Europeans with good. So you associate white people with bad and African Americans with good. This does correlate with my hypothesis because I knew as a black woman, you don't associate white people necessarily with a good background because of how they would racially profile us. So I knew that my mom would be more biased towards black people than white. Now that I've gone over the results with my mom, I'm going to further discuss the results and how they connect to a key concept I learned in class. The results of my mother's Harvard Black and White Application Association test revealed a moderate implicit preference for African Americans over European Americans. Specifically, she was faster at associating African Americans with good and European Americans with bad than the reverse pairing. This outcome challenges dominant societal narratives that often reinforce anti-black bias and suggests that her lived experience as a 58-year-old black woman, may have shaped counter narratives within her unconscious associations. To interpret these findings meaningfully, it is essential to apply the framework of intersectionality, coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, which is funny because my mom's name is Kimberly. Ain't that funny? Coincidental, but yeah. Intersectionality examines how overlapping social identities such as race, gender, class, and age interact to produce unique experiences of privilege and oppression. My mother's identity is not defined solely by her race. It is also shaped by her gender, generational context, and socioeconomic background. As a black woman who came of age during the post-civil rights era, she, though did not encounter racial and gender forms of discrimination, she did witness cultural resilience and community solidarity. Her implicit preference for African Americans may reflect internalized pride and affirmation of her racial identity, cultivated through personal, familial, and cultural experiences that counter mainstream biases. At the same time, her moderate association of European Americans with negative traits could stem from repeated exposure to systematic injustices, such as workplace discrimination, media representation, or unequal treatment in healthcare and education that disproportionately affect black community disproportionately affect black communities. Intersectionality helps us understand that these associations are not simply about race in isolation, but about how race interacts with other dimensions of identity and lived experience. Importantly, the IAT test does not measure conscious belief or moral values. Rather, it reveals automatic association that may be shaped by both personal history and societal conditioning. My mother's results. My mother's results suggest that her implicit biases are informed by a lifetime of navigating racialized spaces as a Black woman, that her identity may serve as a protective factor against internalized dominant anti-Black narratives. This underscores the importance of considering intersectionality when analyzing psychological data, as it allows for a more nuanced understanding of how identity and context shape cognition.